Easy Explain, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, chapters 4 and 5. So we're going to kick off chapter 4 by just pointing out a little shout out that Virginia Woolf gives to Duchess Margaret Cavendish of Newcastle, who we covered way back in the day. So it's cool to see a name drop there, cool to see a mention, but not going to spend any time going through any of those quotes or passages, just want to make note of it. But for starters, let's kick off a theme of this chapter, these next couple chapters, where Woolf's talking about literature. So her philosophy on literature is that it's open to everybody, right? Good little quote there. And further, same vein, similar vein at least, going into freedom of the mind, what this looks like. So lock up your libraries if you like, but there is no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set upon the freedom of my mind, says Virginia Woolf. Another great little quote there. This next one is something I really feel, especially I feel like a lot of us could relate to, those who have to work in offices, working in office environments. For interruptions there will always be. Definitely a lot of distractions in the office place. And this, really mirrors being able to work from home, having a room of your own, right? When you have those private, individual, protected spaces, you can be more productive, right? The boons of work from home. So back to stream of consciousness, right? We start actually with an example of this. Virginia Woolf is really known for this narrative and literary style, popularizing it, really making it known, really making it her own. So here's another example we find in chapter 4. She says that interpreting rest not as doing nothing, but as doing something, but something that is different. So you see I have some ellipses there showing that there's a lot going on before that and a lot after that. It's that stream of consciousness. There's a little snippet I like. Doing nothing as something, just a different something. I think it's important to do nothing sometimes. Moving into chapter 5. So kicking this one off with the Bechdel Test, or maybe better known as the Woolf Test. So the Bechdel Test, very popularized in the 1980s in film, in analysis of film, where if you're going to pass the Bechdel Test, you need two women, two female characters talking to each other about something other than a man. So Woolf actually weighs on this back in 1929 as well. So here she says that how interesting it would have been if the relationship between the two women had been more complicated. All these relationships between women, I thought, rapidly recalling the splendid gallery of fictitious women, are too simple. So much has been left out, unattempted, and I tried to remember any case in the course of my reading where two women are represented as friends. But almost without exception, they are shown in their relation to men. It was strange to think that all the great women of fiction were not only seen by the other sex, but seen only in relation to the other sex. So there you have it, right? Maybe we should call this the Bechdel-Wolf test, or maybe the Wolf-Bechdel test, right? So Virginia Woolf herself was onto this in 1929 as well. We definitely need, there's definitely a need for a more complex, complicated, sophisticated, deep interactions and relationships between women in our media, in our content. In chapter 5, let's touch on literature again. Here, Woolf says that literature is impoverished beyond our counting by the doors that have been shut upon women. So we're actually going to look at literature. Sure, it's for everybody. It's great. You can't put chains on Virginia Woolf's mentality, but she's also going to say that here we got a problem with it. Let's look at some other shut doors other than literature. Woolf goes on to say that there's no mark on the wall to measure the precise height of women. There are no yard measures, neatly divided into the fractions of an inch, that one can lay against the qualities of a good mother, or the devotion of a daughter, or the fidelity of a sister, or the capacity of a housekeeper. Few women even now have been graded at the universities. The great trials of the professions, army and navy, trade, politics, and diplomacy have hardly tested them. They remain, even at this moment, almost unclassified. So here we have the example of there's so many doors shut on women that there's not even systems in place to be measuring them, evaluating them, right? It's so hard to even talk about great women when they're not even being able to walk through open doors to achieve that greatness and be measured up to that greatness. So this comes back to the theme of education, which Woolf has already touched on earlier, so here it is again. So that ought not education to bring out and fortify the differences rather than the similarities. So to her point, again, we're stuck in this huge social system of education that just keeps churning out the same types of people, right? These male leaders. But her point here is that shouldn't all be educated, and shouldn't we be trying to make more different people, diversify our workforce rather than make it just all the same types of people? And along this vein, to cap off chapter 5, let's look at the power of the truth from Woolf. Here she says that be truthful, one would say, and the result is bound to be amazingly interesting. Comedy is bound to be enriched. New facts are bound to be discovered. So look at that. The power of the truth. It's only going to yield more interest. All of our arts and entertainment will only be enriched. They'll be made better. and we're going to push the bounds of discovery, find new facts, new truths, onwards and upwards here. So that's a real quick overview of chapters 4 and 5 for Virginia Woolf. Hope it helps.